In this example, we have been asked to solve the equation graphically by finding the zeros, and then to round our answers to the nearest thousandth. To do this, if you're given an equation such as this, the first thing you need to do is get 0 on one side. So our equation, 4x squared minus 2 equals 10x. We need to solve so that 0 is on one side. We can see that in this case, the 10x would be the easiest term to move so that the right-hand side would become 0. When we move 10x over, we need to subtract it, and then also put your terms on the left-hand side in order. Meaning, we would have 4x squared first. When we subtracted the 10x over, that would be the next term, and then the minus 2 would stay, and then we would have 0 on the right-hand side. What you now want to do is you want to enter this equation into y1. The 0 represents the x-axis. And so on here, if we enter in this left-hand side to y1, we're wanting to know where does that function cross the x-axis. So let's go to our y equals menu. If you have something in there, clear that out. So we enter 4x raised to the second, right over to get out of the exponent, minus 10x, and then minus 2. Okay, notice that our y-intercept is -2. Let's first try a 10 by 10 window and see if it's appropriate for this graph. So just do zoom, and then do option number 6, which is standard. Okay, this looks like an appropriate viewing window. And so what I want you to do on a test or exam is sketch a graph of what you've seen on your calculator. And then specifically, we need to know what are the values where it crosses the x-axis. To do this, press second, trace, and then we want to find the zeros, so we want to go to option number 2. Alright, it's asking me for a left bound. Now, my zeros are located in 2 different places. There's one here and there's one here. So I'm going to have to do this process twice. Let's say that we want the one on the far left-hand side. I want to make sure that my cursor is to the left of that point. So in this case, I'll arrow to the left a little bit. You see that right now my cursor's up here. It'd be slightly to the left of where I want it to be. Press enter. And then for a right bound, arrow to the right. Make sure you go over that 0, but also make sure you don't go far enough over to interfere with the other. Okay, so I'm a little bit to the right of where I need to be. Press enter. And when it asks for a guess, just press enter there. Okay, so it takes me to that 0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to label that ordered pair. So it's -0.18, and then it wants me to round to the nearest thousandth. So there's a 6 in the thousandths place with a 1 to its right, so it would round just to -0.186. And then notice that the y value is 0. Let's do this again to find the other 0. So we would do second, trace. Option number 2 gets us to the 0. Alright, it wants a left bound. Now I'm looking for the 0 that's on the right. Well, I'm obviously to the left of it, but I'm also interfering with this other one. So in this case, I'm going to arrow slightly to the right to get close to that other 0. Okay, somewhere in here, I'm slightly to the left of the 0 I want to find. So press enter. And then right bound. So arrow right, make sure you go across it. Somewhere in here, I'm slightly to the right of what I want to find. Press enter. And then when it asks for a guess, press enter again. Okay, we'll label that point. That point we see is 2.68, and then we see a 6 in the thousandths place with a 1 to its right, so it would just be 6, and then comma 0. Alright, so it said solve the equation graphically by finding the zeros. So I have done that. Now zeros have the form just x equals to a number. And so there I would want to make a final statement that the zeros are x equals negative 0.186 and x equals 2.686. I do want to make a note about notation, and that specifically has to do with the y values that we have here. There is what we call scientific notation, and every now and then on your calculator it will pop up using scientific notation. And so on here you will sometimes see, instead of 0 as the y coordinate, you'll have something along the lines of y equals let's say 2.1379, and then you'll see a capital letter E with maybe a negative value behind it. What that actually means is it means take this number and move the decimal point in that number to the left 12 places. So it actually means y equals 0. And then we'd have to put, to move it to the left 12 places, we'd essentially have to put 11 zeros in front of that 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then do the 21379. Okay, the decimal was here. We have now moved it to the left 12 places. All right. Now, this number here on our calculator is essentially y equals 0. So anytime you see this scientific notation where you have the E and the negative number, don't worry that it's not 0. It means essentially 0.